All right, well, welcome back to the channel, family. I'm talking today with Jonathan Young, who lives just a few hours away from me. We're both in Oregon. I'm in Bend, he's in Eugene, and we have quite a lot in common, especially a passion for making disciples in Oregon. So, we're going to be talking about some disciple making movement practices, some prayer practices, and just sharing our faith with one another and what we can learn from one another in applying principles, tactics, strategies in our context in Oregon. So, Jonathan, thanks for talking today.
Thanks for asking.
Tell me about extraordinary prayer and fasting that's in disciple making movements and how you applied that in Eugene, Oregon.
Well, that's the first thing that they talk about doing, and that's something that's been really important to me because I prayer was a big part of my conversion, and then also I early on was involved with um, the guy who discipled me, Ken. He prays all all the time. And I was involved with other kind of groups that he was involved in, and they pray all the time too. And so I was used to praying um, in Tennessee for a while, probably like the first year after I converted. I was used to praying 4 to 5 hours a day and fasting
Wow.
several times a week. And so I was going really strong. And then that died down some, but that when it was happening, I saw a lot of great things, and so I
Yeah, sure.
knew that. And then so I've always known like how big of an impact that makes. And so when we first came, that was we actually had a mission group from the campus ministry in Tennessee. There was a mission trip of about 10 people who came. And since mission trips are especially, I guess, like I get to be the boss kind of because
Sure.
they're in my territory and they're dependent on
Hmm.
me. So I was I had everyone pray in the schedule. 3 hours every day was prayer, and all 10 of us were praying. And
Wow.
the first 2 weeks when the mission team was here were by far the best weeks since being in Eugene. Like by far, by far, by far. It was crazy. We would go out on campus and do stuff, and we would meet lots of people and have great conversations and talk to people who were ready to do a Bible study like the next day and be discipled, and people
Wow.
really hungry. And like we set up and did like lots of conversations, and we saw a lot of crazy, like I would say pretty miraculous stuff too. And everyone there was saying they felt like it was like for the first time seeing the Acts to, or not just Acts in general church, like
Hmm.
not just them but
Yeah.
me. I felt like this was the first time, like I felt like living in the book of Acts. It was like people
Yeah.
ready just like that to do a Bible study and be discipled like the next day and doing it. And then we saw lots of because you lived in Eugene's pretty um
Yeah.
spiritually crazy nuts. And so there's a lot of paganism and witchcraft and stuff.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of spiritual stuff we saw, um like going back and forth. And we just saw all kinds of crazy stuff. It was crazy. There was a lot of like supernatural stuff, but especially just the receptive way people were. Like, it was unbelievable. And then since those 2 weeks, it's been not that at all. And it's obvious, like, what was, you know, we do the same thing. There's less of us, but like going out on campus and evangelism stuff, nothing has changed in terms of what we do, but it's like there's not 10 of us praying 3 hours every day. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's so obvious that's the thing that's missing now. And which is why I'm always for any prayer group. I'll be like, yeah, I'll join. Or if anyone's interested, I'm good to start it, because if that could happen again, like a good group of people praying a ton every day, then, you know, I think great things would happen for sure.
I appreciate you sharing that radical 3 hours of prayer for weeks on end. And when you do Bible things happen. So you're feeling like you're living in the book of Acts, spiritual things are happening. And a lot of mission teams, they may not start in prayer, and they may take years to see things like that happen. Sounds like your experience was almost reverse, where God did a bunch right at the beginning, and then now you're experiencing some of those building and refining years from God. And I appreciate you saying that you're always up for prayer, because it seems like the obvious ingredient that God can really use, that can get God moving. Tell me about, you and I connected. We started praying together. In fact, we started a Oregon prayer hub with new generations for other people to pray for disciple making movements throughout Oregon. Every first and third Friday, it's our start. But why multiply prayer? Why get other people involved in prayer for making disciples specifically? Why, Jonathan, why are you in a prayer hub with me?
I think definitely, obviously, it's in the Bible, the first part of the book of Acts. It begins with them praying for 40 days. But also just experience, it's a huge difference. So right now, I go in and out of this routine, but thankfully I've been going strong for a while. But I get up at 4 and start the day off by praying, and that's a big thing from the Bible that inspired me, is because Jesus got up early and prayed, and it's like, if Jesus prayed, then I really need to pray. And so, but you know, it's hard, and if I miss a day, you know, it's a rough day. And so it's just from experience beyond the Bible, it's a very obvious difference, even if it seems like things aren't going perfect. If I slip up and don't pray a day, I realize how much more can go wrong. And so, like, it's definitely such a big part of the Bible, and how God's people do things. But for me, experience has been the biggest motivator, because I've learned things really, really go great if I have a routine of not necessarily the morning, but if I have a certain time that is a good bit of time each day set aside for prayer, then things work together really well. And if I miss it, then things are really, really overwhelming, and it's like all kinds of problems. And it's just like, you know, everything is against you, and there's no guarantee that things will ever go your way. And so I've learned many times from experience that. And so praying is, you know, if like I spend more time trying to, like, if I miss prayer to try and solve problems, then I just get more problems. And so it's definitely an experience. Like, I'm much happier, and the ministry goes way well when I do it. And so it's like, That's the biggest motivator. But then, of course, in addition to, it's kind of one with the fact that it is what the Bible says. But I know, especially, it's true for not just because the Bible, but I see it.
Yeah. Well, I'm inspired. 4 a.m. prayer routine, and you're inspired just by Jesus to walk as he walked, getting up early, a specific repeated time and place. And it's easy. Anyone can do a 2 week spurt like you were talking about where they're praying, but keeping that habit and over the years having the discipline and the lifestyle, it sounds like that's what you've developed, and that's the long game to work towards. Really appreciate that, and I even appreciate you saying that the problems seem to solve themselves in prayer rather than you having to solve them. And I love praying with you in the Oregon Prayer Hub because you are a person of prayer, kind of like the disciples went to Jesus, teach us how to pray. I like to learn how to pray from other people who are praying. So thanks for partnering in that prayer. And Jonathan, I'd say too, just thanks for this time to chat about disciple making principles, campus church planting, movement prayer. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I can't think of anything other than just, it's really encouraging praying together and being able to get to know each other. And it's always encouraging to have, people in general who understand kind of the ministry, but especially your own age, is it's nice. And so, it's been a nice connection, and for sure, also would invite anyone to join us on Fridays.
That's right. I'll put in a quick plug here. Jonathan and I pray for workers to enter the harvest field. They don't have to be our age. They don't have to know everything about disciple making, but we need to see more people our age planting more churches at the same time. So join the Oregon Prayer Hub if you can, and so that we can learn from one another in prayer and see God work through our prayers. And if this video blessed you, subscribe to the channel. I'll leave some links in the description so you can check out what Jonathan is doing too. God bless.